Well, this is a bit of a bonus. Well, it's more of a trailer, really, episode, because coming up as part of our series, we've got a paranormal investigator coming, and I've been referring to him for weeks as my paranormal best friend. I'm not sure what he refers to me as, but anyway, we're very excited because he's going to come in, a guy called Matt Arnold, who is involved with a number of organisations that look at the paranormal and particularly look at it from a Christian point of view, because traditionally, I don't know how far back we go, but certainly in my lifetime, which does go back some time, the church runs away from these things. It's like, oh, ghosts, run away. Oh, mediums, run away. Oh, anything that isn't under our control, run away. And part of what this season is about taking some of these difficult and slightly weird subjects and looking at them square in the eye socket and going, okay, let's examine this. Let's see what we think about this, so we can reach a conclusion. Now, we could conclude it's a load of nonsense. We could conclude this is something really we don't want to be involved with, but we've had a look at it. So that's partly what it's about. And ghosts are an interesting subject. I've heard some of Matt's stuff before, and it's very interesting. It made me think about it, because you think, well, there's no ghosts in the Bible, so therefore it shouldn't be a Christian thing. Actually, the Bible is full of ghosts. Well, full is probably a bit of an exaggeration. But you have ghosts in the Old Testament, and you have ghosts in the New Testament. I mean, partly it does depend how you define ghosts, I admit that. But in the New Testament, the Transfiguration, for instance, Jesus is there with Moses and Elijah, and they're dead. But the disciples see Jesus with these two dead people. And what are dead people if they're not ghosts? Well, that's part of the question, because you go, well, they're resurrected. But if you're going on a biblical timescale, these people haven't been resurrected yet. Because the resurrection, I was just reading it in 1 Corinthians 15 there. The resurrection there, I'm saying there because it's there. Anyway, the resurrection is at the last trumpet. And you could say, well, God's outside of time, so it's already happened, which would be one of my general get-out excuses when we talk about things like this. But I said it to man, he goes, well, I don't know. He thinks time passes in the dimension that we call heaven. So it's all very interesting. I think partly the question or the issue is around language. Forgive me if I'm rambling, but I find this quite interesting. It's around the language we use. So in science, you would talk about parallel universes or other dimensions. And in science fiction, you'd use similar language. We talk about heaven, don't we? Or we talk about spiritual realms. Are they the same thing? Just a different language? Because science would understand there's other forms of being and other forms of existence. Is faith just trying to explain some of these things that we can't comprehend? And we're using a poetic way of speaking, which is part of my issue with it's not my issue, part of one of my many soapboxes, and I frequently talk about how many soapboxes I've got, is that science is answering a load of questions, and science is really important, but so does art, poetry and music, and they're saying different things. And there's more than one way to look at this. You can look at a flower as a collection of molecules and colour tones and the way it reflects light and all that. Or you can look at it, this is a thing of beauty that brings me joy and reminds me of the sun. And one isn't right and one wrong. It depends how you look at it, because both are true. So faith, I think, and spirituality is a seeking after this other truth. This truth that you can't quite nail down in the way you can nail down other things. So ghosts are one of those aspects. What are ghosts? Are they a remnant of something that existed? Are they all a load of nonsense? And your rational part of your brain goes, of course they are. But then people tell you stories, or people that you know and trust have encounters, or you hear anecdotal evidence, which at the end of the day, it's still evidence. A questionnaire really is anecdotal evidence, really, because you're saying, what do you think? Tick, tick, tick. Well, there's the evidence. Well, that's just what you think. Anyway, that's it depends how you measure things, doesn't it? So anyway, so the ghost thing is, and also the most rational person. I know some very, very rational people that go out during the day, a load of nonsense. 2 o'clock in the morning, when they're on their own in the house, all of a sudden the ghost thing seems very real, doesn't it? Are we just tricking ourselves? Is it just an irrational fear of the dark? Well, we'll find out. Here's Matt, just to give you a taster about some of the things he's going to talk about. Matt's going to be doing 2 talks for us. One is around ghosts, and we're going to be asking people to bring your own real life ghost stories. We want to hear what people have actually experienced and discuss that to try and find some truth in it all. And he's also going to do a talk which takes us on the journey from the Old Testament, the beginning of the Old Testament, to the end of the New Testament, to see how the idea of the afterlife has developed, how it changed, what came in, what was introduced, where it came from. So it builds on the heaven and hell conversation we had earlier in the season. So the 2 talks Matt's going to do, he's going to give us a brief introduction to them. And hopefully you'll be able to catch them in more detail at a later point in the podcasts. So here's Matt with what's coming up. Death and glory, ghost stories, and afterlife in the Bible.
Hi, I'm Matt Arnold, editor of the Christian Parapsychologist Journal and researcher-writer for the ghostschoolsandgod.co.uk website. As part of my contribution to the Death and Glory season, I will be talking about ghosts and the afterlife as found in the Bible, looking at the various beliefs and how they evolve as the scriptures are put together. We'll be seeing the texts through the eyes of the original writers in their different cultural contexts and what the various words they used meant to their readers. I find this fascinating because my master's research into the earliest Christian beliefs about death, the afterlife, and ghosts revealed that they are very different to the Protestant beliefs we have today. I want to take a Jude 3 approach, holding to the faith first received by breaking open those ancient wells and seeing what we've lost. Society is very much into the paranormal, and the church often seems silent on the subject because it believes the Bible has little to say about the afterlife. When it does speak, it can often speak negatively towards a subject, putting off those seeking help from the church when issues which may be paranormal are experienced by them. During World War I and World War II, the church was either silent about, demonized, or ridiculed the many reported post-death visitations of departed loved ones who were killed on foreign battlefields. By ignoring or belittling people's questions, people went to other sources of information regarding their experiences, such as the Spiritualist Church, which saw increases in membership after the wars. Yet, the Bible is filled with paranormal events and packed with afterlife imagery, which is often hidden beneath the translation we're using. We need to read the texts through the mindsets of the original biblical writers to see them. Are ghosts spirits of departed humans? Are we just in stasis when we physically die? Does the Bible speak about the afterlife in any detail? What's the difference between the afterlife and the resurrection life after the afterlife? We'll explore these and many more questions in my talks. For me, Death or Glory seems an excellent way of taking a serious look at issues around death, which are often brushed under the carpet because somehow they're embarrassing to talk about. The season is just what we need in the church, especially after times of mass death in our nation, thanks to the COVID pandemic, and the questions that arise from things like alleged visitations of our departed loved ones. After making mistakes after the 2 world wars, are we ready this time to have biblical answers that can help people process their paranormal experiences of departed loved ones?